You are now listening to 5-Star Wrestling Radio. Rewind.
Welcome back to part 2 of today's show on wrestling games. Like I was saying previously on part 1 of this show, anticipation and expectation. As a video gamer and as a wrestling fan, we have a certain degree of what we want out of something, and especially in today's market where games are going for $60. God only knows how much they're going to cost the next generation after this one. As a wrestling fan, we see games like Metal Gear Solid, which is due out June 12th, Gears of War coming out this November, part 2. These games are like outstandingly done. They're cover stories. The developers discuss how they've added this element, that element to better it. And you read the gaming magazines and these different articles online, and they're like 8 pages long, sometimes even 10 pages long, and it mind blows you how the realism that they put into it, so much thought they put into it. And then as a pro wrestling fan, we look for video games of pro wrestling, and we look at games like SmackDown and TNA Impact, and the games do look good. You're not gonna lie, the games look good. But why aren't these games treated as epics as they could be? 10 years ago, I remember, almost 10 years ago, back in like 99, there was a cover story on WWF Attitude. And WWF Attitude with The Rock and Billy Gunn was on the cover. The game was built up because it was a cover story game and they had put a lot of emphasis in it. And the year after that, SmackDown was on the cover. Then they had Just Bring It was, I think, the year after that in like 02, if I'm not mistaken. When your game is a cover story, that's a big deal. And I feel that as a wrestling fan, why aren't our games treated like that? We have next-gen technology that can make Grand Theft Auto more than just a little game that you play and go run and hijack people's cars and stuff. This game is now a living, breathing society. So now that you look, why isn't that wrestling being treated as a cover story game that could possibly be almost epic? I'm not complaining because of the previous 8 years of games that we've been getting, with the exception of SmackDown versus Raw 08 last year. These are awesome games. But if I'm paying $60 for a game, specifically a wrestling game, don't give me some bullshit that you've cooked up and you've had this little subpar idea, and then you try to, market it up with your $1 million marketing plans and try to push it towards me as a way of saying, yeah, this is the new awesome thing. You've got to add more to it. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that made these games fun are missing, and they've been in the games before and they've taken them out. Roster customization, in a day and age where every time you see the different wrestlers, they're changing their look, changing their outfits. They're not doing it anymore, and I think it's really kind of messing things up when you take these things out. The creative belt modes, they really don't say anything. The GM modes, I remember when GM mode was first introduced, General Manager mode was spoken about in 2005 for the SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 version of the game. And it sent a lot of shockwaves through different message boards because people were really looking for a chance to actually show their side of being a bookie and having the show more like more of their own. They wanted to probably create their own sets, create their own belts, put their own belts on certain shows that they feel should have the belts, retire certain belts, hold tournaments. Instead, we got a poor excuse of a general manager mode where it was hard to maintain ratings, increase ratings. Money would go away in a more unplanned manner. The only way you can increase ratings was by autograph signings and invading shows. And I'm really thinking to myself that by now, with the technology we have, general manager mode should be an outstanding mode, and it's not. The control scheme last year for it to be a next gen was so god awful. Holding this trigger and making it run for that button, And I'm thinking to myself, you know, what happened? The same recycled moves over and over. You know, you video gamers know that have been playing SmackDown know exactly what I'm talking about. There are certain games on the SmackDown series that we've been recently playing that have been on since its inception in 2000. When the game was first created in 2000, some of these moves have been on there, and it's still on there, and I think it's lazy. $60 for a game and you're not giving us what we expect. Same thing with TNA. You know, TNA I know is a new company, and I know that they possibly, you know, everybody's not going to pick them up because they're young, and you know they want to get behind a company that they're pretty sure they're going to be able to profit off of. But I think TNA and Midway was a poor choice. Activision is a company that developed a game back in 1996 known as Power Move Pro Wrestling, a non-licensed wrestling game that I consider a cult classic. I feel it was responsible for wrestling games like WCW Revenge, WCW versus NWO World Tour, No Mercy, those games coming along. You know, the awesome moves, realistic wrestling, blood. That game for the PlayStation, Power Move Pro Wrestling, made by Activision, paved the way. And Midway's game, I'm not going to lie, it doesn't look that impressive. I'm glad that it's on the shelves to give us more of a choice rather than just constantly looking for SmackDown every year. But with TNA Impact, a company like TNA, which is night and day from WWE, even though they're having major problems with their storylines, in my opinion, you want to see something unique and different, not something that we've seen for the past 8 years with the name TNA on it. With this type of technology, with the money we're shelling out, we should be getting it. I'm sorry, that's the way I feel. You know, it's probably countless guys, countless girls that love professional wrestling, video game fans that love professional wrestling, that would love to go into GameStop, go into EB Games, go into Walgreens, go into Target, wherever, and see a game magazine with AJ Styles on the cover because that video game is going to be revolutionary and highly anticipated and possibly live up to the expectation. They would love to see John Cena on the cover, even though I don't care for him as a wrestler. CM Punk on the cover of the book, Batista, Undertaker, Johnny Nitro, HBK on the cover. And, you know, because that game is going to be so awesome, because somebody is really just pouring out and pulling out all the stops because they know this is what this game could be. When are we going to see that? Why should we not see that when we're paying the money we have? Yeah, graphics are important. I would love to see Triple H come out on a game and wow, that looks just like Triple H. Wow, that looks just like AJ Styles. But why should I just be worried about that? Why shouldn't I not see, you know, the blood like it was in 2006's version? The guy gets cut on the head. They had the 3 stages of blood. The blood stained the ring. I thought that was awesome. Why did you take it out? It's for every 2 steps they put forward, they take 5 back. SmackDown, Impact, whatever wrestling game, whatever wrestling company that's going to come out in the next few years when they have a video game should be like having groundbreaking technology, groundbreaking gameplay, groundbreaking modes and stuff, you know? Why not? Big money. You could make a wrestling game that is so good it's almost impossible for a video gamer to ignore it. And he's not even a wrestling fan. When we come back on the next part of Insomnia Radio Wrestling Games, this edition, we're going to be discussing the best and the worst wrestling games ever made. Some of the ones that paved the way for today's stuff that we see, as well as some of the stuff that just honestly just, wow, it disappointed us to a level we didn't even think was possible. When we come back on Insomnia Radio, the best and the worst wrestling games.